Oh my goodness, what the hell just happened? My name is Ian Monhe, and welcome back to Three-Peat Sports. I believe this is I'm gonna say it's episode 6. I don't remember the last, the number, the digit. But welcome back to Three-Peat Sports, and welcome in. Yeah, it's been a while. I believe the last time I recorded was in July, which is quite a while. It's been quite a long time. But a lot of stuff has happened. This is going to be a basketball episode. I'm going to stick to my sports in particular. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns, per usual. We're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to talk about Josh Primo. I hope to eventually talk about my full predictions for this upcoming season. I've been very excited for the start of this season to come up, and it's been a great start to this first season. Just a couple housekeeping stuff, it's been a while. School has been nuts, to say the least. Sports reporting has been really kicking my ass, really, writing a bunch of stories. If you want to check out those stories, it's on AZ Preps 365. That's just a bunch of high school stories that I'm writing about. I'm covering Buckeye Union, so that's been really fun, even though it's been very tiring. That's been a lot of fun, and I don't think I've ever shared it on the podcast, but I do the school radio. I do a show with, if you guys remember from the draft show, Will Horan, along with some of our other college friends, Griffin Greenberg, Luca Gelani, Danny Sullivan. We host a 1 hour NBA show on Blaze Radio called the Triple Double. So if you want to get my thoughts, along with everybody else's thoughts about what's going on in the NBA, I suggest that you guys are able to tune in. It's 4 to 5 Arizona time every Thursday. So those are the couple of housekeeping notes, and let's just jump into it. I mean, this is a whole lot of fun throughout this first week, and I really I'm gonna talk about the Suns first. I didn't get my opportunity to talk about my team on the last show, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. And the first word that comes to mind when I do watch this Phoenix Suns team, it's encouraging to watch this team really adapt to their issues that they had in last year's playoffs. There was a big issue with shot creation. There's been a big issue with allowing these other young guys to develop, guys like DeAndre Ayton, guys like Mikal Bridges, being more involved in the offense, more on the ball. Even a guy like Cam Johnson, who's now been thrust into the starting lineup with Jay Crowder wanting out of the Phoenix Suns. No idea why he would want out in the first place, but that's that. I'm recording this on the early morning hours of October 29th, so the Suns just completed their game against the Pelicans, where they... I'll check the final score on that. I don't really remember. It's been a long night doing homework and whatnot. 124-111. And Mikal in particular had a really big game. He got 27 points, 4 assists. He was 10 of 13 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, had 3 blocks. He had a steal, was really all over the place in this game. And he did a couple of things in this game in particular. I remember him being on the right wing, dribbling twice with his left hand, doing a spin move into the close to the basket, then doing a step back jumper to his right and making it. And that move in particular really got my attention. That seems to be something that he's been emphasizing, is creating his own shots, not only being a catch and shoot guy, which is, what he did in this game. A lot of his baskets do come from catch and shoots. It comes from cuts to the basket, which is something that is a really underrated part of his game. The reason why I was so surprised, and the reason why I call this all encouraging, I put it out on Twitter, and if you haven't followed my Twitter, it's Ian B. Monhe on Twitter. I had them as a 60-win team, still as the number one seed. The only reason why I predicted that is because I don't think that CP3 is really slowing down, particularly if he was still a number two option. I thought that he had too big of pride, too big of an ego to fall back as a third option, and I thought that he would try to win on his own terms. But it seems that he's been more than willing to take a step back. If you watch that first game against Dallas, him being encouraging to his teammates while he was sitting on the bench after, he played bad. He played bad in that first game, so much so that we had him on the triple double show on the washed watch, and that was silly to put players on a list after a game. Like, my goodness, it's the start of the season. But him being able to take a step back, it really shows a lot about how he values the Phoenix Suns, how he values everybody else, how he sees everybody else fitting in as allowing them to improve, allowing them to be bigger, better players, growing into potentially star level talents. And it's not to say that Chris Paul is okay. Chris Paul has started off the season shooting pretty badly. On defense, he's been better than expected, particularly against guys where he's not going to be overwhelmed by size. If you're going to match him up against Spencer Dinwiddie or Reggie Bullock or the Dallas Mavericks, whose tallest player in the starting lineup is 6'5", 6'6", he's going to be overwhelmed, and I think he's going to be matchup dependent on the defensive end, and that's not always the most fun thing in the world. But he has been impressive getting the steals. He's been impressive on the ball, off the ball, against teams that he should be being able to guard well. So seeing him being able to take a step back, that's been encouraging. Allowing Book to be more on ball, and he's been fantastic to start off the season. In this game in particular against the Pelicans, he had 16. Had a little bit of an off night from beyond the arc. But the thing that I was very impressed with to start this season, me and Luca on the show talked about how underrated his playmaking is, and that's... Oh, shoot. Okay. All right, we're good. That was on my phone. I have my AirPods in. It's connected on two devices. But with Book, we were talking about his playmaking being an underrated part, and I guess that's what I was kind of alluding to on the radio show. I believe that was last week. But I was really trying to talk about him splitting the double teams being a very impressive thing. If you threw him a double team last year, he took a long time navigating the double team, not being able to sense it, and it led to a bunch of jump passes over the defense, and he was easy to stop if you double teamed him, and that was part of the reason why the team lost to the Dallas Mavericks in the second round last year. To start off this season, he's looked a lot more mature, and that sounds really weird to say, but he seems to be making an effort trying to drive to the basket, trying to draw fouls, which was something that this Suns team in the last 2 years in particular have had a hard time doing, getting to the foul line, getting free throws. And Book, to start the season, has done a very good job threading the needle, allowing other players to be decisive, creating a mismatch problem, creating 4-on-3, and I think that's a really important step for him to take. Here's what I'll say. I'm not going to say that because of this, he's not going to reach a Luka Doncic-esque, talent. Luka's on another level. What I am saying is that if he's able to split double teams and be able to navigate those on a consistent basis, he becomes a threat everywhere. And that's what makes the ceiling of this team so much higher. If you double team him, he's going to thread the needle, and everybody's becoming decisive now. Driving to the basket, kicking out. He's creating shots for others and making other players better. That's the threat of him when he's double teamed. And if you single cover him, he's going to play with you. He's going to go to the basket. He's going to put you in isolation, put you in a blender, go to the mid range, which is where he has been dominant all throughout his career. So I think having that, that would be a great development if that was able to stay on a consistent basis. And the bench has overachieved to start off the season. Jock Landale has taken over Dario Saric as the backup five, and he's been very pleasant to watch as a guy that's not afraid to shoot the ball as a big man, a guy that has sneaky athleticism, a guy that runs the floor really well, a guy that's really good at blocking. He's a very good shot blocker for being a bench guy in particular. Damian Lee had a very good first game, hitting the game winner against Dallas. Cam Payne has looked very good from beyond the arc from an efficiency standpoint. Torrey Craig has looked great on the boards. He's looked very good shooting from beyond the arc to start the season. The main issue with this Suns team still is that bench. I mean, everybody has looked much more confident and they've overachieved, but I'm not expecting this bench to be. I don't think that they have a legit six man yet, and they have the contracts of Dario Saric, who he's not playing, and that's $9 million on the bench. Jay Crowder is $10 million being wasted right now. Who knows? Maybe that they are still holding out on a Kevin Durant, and the Brooklyn Nets situation has looked terrible. It's looked really bad to start off the season. Excuse me. But there is some competent bench players that I do like out there. I really like Buddy Hield. I think Terry Rozier could be on the market. I think a lot of this is still dependent on which teams are going to fall out of the playoff race by January. Because I do think that there's going to be a number of teams. This is going to be the biggest tank season. Let's just be honest, man. Victor Wembanyama is the best prospect that we've ever seen, that I've ever seen. Let's just put that out there. And I think if there's a lot of teams realizing that they're going to be out of the playoff race, there's going to be teams selling off their players. I wouldn't be surprised if a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if you want to go into bigger stretches like Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, those are stretches, obviously. All three of those guys, really. But if they flame out, if their teams flame out, those teams could be putting those guys up for sale and really trying to get one of these top two prospects, but everybody's trying to go after Wemby. So I think that's why Phoenix is holding out. But I think, with $20 million on the books, just they're not being used. I think that a move is inevitable for a six-man level-esque player. They've looked very good to start off the season. Just to sum everything up, DeAndre Ayton has looked great as a 1B option. Unfortunately, he sprained his ankle, and we'll have to see how long his recovery time is going to be. But everything has been encouraging so far. A lot of players have overachieved to start off this season, and this is a team that I think a lot of fans have slept on, and a number of teams that have. I think a lot of fans really have to keep their eye out because they're still really talented. I think I want to move on to Dallas real quick. I've always been infatuated with Dallas. I remember making podcast episodes back in like early 2021, maybe late 2020, really evaluating Kristaps Porzingis' fit next to Luka. And I just really like talking about Dallas. They're an interesting case right now. Luka Doncic, I think at this rate, he's going to have maybe like the top 15 spots in when it comes to usage rate, highest usage rate, because everything just runs through him. And he's done a very good job at carrying this team. Let's just put it that way. He really reads the defenses very well. He's a threat as a passer. He's a threat as a scorer, as a step-back scorer at that as well. I'm not sold on Jason Kidd. And that's weird to say, considering that this is the team that made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, outcoached Monty Williams, the Coach of the Year last year, on their way to that. This is the same system that he ran when he first became a coach in the NBA. That involved a lot of double teams and blitzing your best players and forcing other players to be decisive. And I think he was with the Nets. I want to say he was with the Nets when he first got hired. And I think that they made the second round of the playoffs that year. He then goes on to Milwaukee. I think he got traded there. I think it was a trade of coaches. But he goes ahead and, stays with that system. And a lot of teams figured that double teaming and the blitzing out. And even with guys, I'm not sure if he was still there when Bledsoe got traded there, but even then, Chris Middleton, from the time he was with Milwaukee, was a good to great defender. He had Giannis, who was pretty much elite by the time he left. And they had Malcolm Brogdon. They had a number of guys that are competent defenders, really good defenders at that, and he didn't use those guys very well because he stuck to that system, and everybody figured out that system, and it left a lot of people wide open, and people started to make their shots. I think that he very much overachieved because I think that this is the best player that Jason Kidd has had in Luka Doncic at that point in time. Giannis he didn't coach Giannis at his peak, but I think that this is going to be a lot harder to do that. I think a lot of teams are going to figure that double teams out, and Phoenix certainly figured that out in the first game. I believe they're 3-2. I'm not. They haven't looked fantastic on the defensive end. I think it's been a matter of Luka setting everybody up, Christian Wood going off to a baller start. But a lot of his system predicates on really good perimeter defenders, people running full speed at these defenders. And, there's guys there. JaVale McGee is a rim protector who only he's a starter. I don't know why he's starting over there. He hasn't looked good defensively, even though he has that reputation of being a very good shot blocker. There's Reggie Bullock, who I believe is like 32, 33, getting up there in age. Dorian Finney-Smith, who I think is just about 30. Maxi Kleber has been a fine defender for his position. Josh Green is a young defender. I don't know how much he plays for Dallas currently, and I don't know. Are these guys really gonna hold the fort for guys like Spencer Dinwiddie and Luka Doncic and Christian Wood, who have to exert all their energy on the offensive end because nobody else can create for them, and they can't create for themselves? I think it's going to be very hard to do so. I think that teams are going to figure this scheme out later on in the season, and I think it would give Jason Kidd a chance to try to adapt, but he was the same coach that was too stubborn to move away from his system and kept on going with the double teams, and that's what eventually got him fired in Milwaukee. So what makes me think that he's gonna change up stuff now? We're gonna have to wait and see on that. I'm a little bit lower on Dallas than other fans might be, and that might be an issue for a lot of people who are high on Luka Doncic. Guys like I believe it's Nick Wright that predicted them to win the NBA Finals this year, which I can't go that far right now, but it's going to be interesting. I think this is going to be a good case study to follow for the next couple of months. I did want to touch on Josh Primo. He was the 12th overall pick in the 2021 draft, and he got cut just, I guess we could say, yesterday now. And that was very surprising for a number of different reasons. He looked very, very strong as the season went on last year. He came in that Gary Trent mold, being, very good in the upper body, or had the potential to be very good in upper body strength, being a good shooter, having a good handle. I think that he was more so projected to be like a combo guard, point guard, shooting guard. And he averaged, I believe, what was like 6 points a game on inefficient shooting, sporadic minutes last year playing with DeJounte Murray. I think there was Derek White for most of the season. There was Trey Jones, who has seemingly earned the trust of Greg Popovich. And I thought he was gonna play a big role on this Spurs team, and he really has. He was expected to. They picked up his third-year option. They had high expectations for him, along with Spurs fans, and then he just gets abruptly cut. He puts out a statement, and there's no reason to speculate what exactly is happening behind the scenes, but it certainly makes you think. Did he do something that bad, or is there a disagreement? Is there goals not aligning somewhere? There's absolutely something underlying behind this. You just don't have that level of talent just out there. I think he's going to still have a lot of interest somewhere. But I think that there's going to be more information in the coming days, and this is a situation to monitor so far, because it's unusual to see guys out there that talented just left on the market. English is tough, man. It's tough speaking for 20 plus consecutive minutes, let alone an hour. I think, I don't want to repeat everything that I said on the radio show. I guess we'll just kind of gloss over that stuff a little bit. I talked about the Philadelphia 76ers, maybe there being a power struggle within shot dispersion between Maxey, Harden, and Embiid. Maybe Harden having a little bit more of an ego now that he's got his body back in shape. And we all agreed that Doc Rivers is not a very good coach and hasn't done a very good job being a leader of men for this team, which was what he was brought in to be. And they have competent assistants like Dave Yeager, Sam Cassell, that could probably turn this team around if we're being honest. But I think that's Philly. They won today. Tyrese Maxey had a hell of a game. I think it was 44 points and was perfect from the field, perfect from three at halftime. But Philly's going to be an interesting case study. Is PJ Tucker going to live up to the contract that he was given? Is Montrezl Harrell going to play himself into a playoff rotation? The same question can be asked for a guy like DeAnthony Melton, who has been consistently benched for a guy like Tyus Jones, even John Conchar in some cases when he was in Memphis. They have a lot of potential to get to the finals, potentially win the finals. Shot dispersion, somebody needs to have their shots cut a little bit, and coaching is going to be the biggest issue that's going to hold them back if they don't win a championship this year. I'm trying to think of other stuff. We talked about Golden State, how slow of a start it has been for them. It's an interesting start. Steph Curry has looked he's looked like an MVP candidate to start off this season. And no, we're not going to go into these MVP ladders already a week into the season. It's ridiculous that we're seeing that. But Steph has looked great to start off the season. Jordan Poole has looked great off the bench. There's an interesting debate going around about Jordan Poole potentially starting over Klay. Klay has started off really slowly from the field. Defensively, he was getting his ass kicked by Book. throughout that entire game before the ejection. Is that Draymond Jordan Poole situation, is that gonna affect their season at all? I wouldn't be surprised by it. I predicted that to be a fatal flaw into why I have them. I don't think I'm gonna do my predictions on this episode. I think I might upload another one the next day, just talking about all of my NBA seasonal predictions. But I have them eliminated first round, and I cited chemistry issues between the two as that. But I think that winning does heal a lot of things, and I think that at that time I was that was pretty fresh off of the incident, and I think that was justified. But winning does cure a lot of things, and unless something really terrible happens behind the scenes, I would expect that prediction to be wrong. We talked about a number of teams like the Clippers getting off to a slow start. I don't understand Kawhi and John Wall being on the bench for as long as they have been. Granted, it's only been 5-6 games, but I was not expecting them to play as little as they have been to start off the season. I remember citing turnovers and ball handling being an issue. Who's going to take over the load as a ball handler if there's just going to be turnover worthy guys like Reggie Jackson, like Paul George, John Wall, Kawhi Leonard's the other ball handler, and then other than that, you have a bunch of catch and shoot guys that can't really do a whole lot off the dribble. Is Marcus Morris going to be sustainable? Is Ty Lue going to put these guys in better positions when they have to go against bigger teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are an interesting case study, and I think that's what I'll dive into next. But it's interesting. I think that the Clippers will eventually get back to speed. I mean, I think of them very highly. I think of Ty Lue very highly. His ability to create mismatches, his ability to game plan. But to end the season the way that they did, in a way that I didn't expect it to. I didn't expect them to lose to the Pelicans or the Timberwolves in the play-in. And then the season is starting off relatively slowly this season. It's going to be another interesting case study. I don't expect much to change when it comes to how I'm predicting these teams. But I think that they're a team worth watching simply because of the slow start right now. And, I mean, they're pretty marketable. Having Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and being in LA, you're going to be in the news quite a bit. And they're going to be expected to do something. So there's that. I did want to touch on the T-Wolves, who they're 4-2. They just beat the Lakers, who are now 0-5, and I don't want to because I don't want to talk about the Lakers later on in this episode. They're trash. End of story. They have a bunch of created 2K players in their roster. They got Phi Psi members on their NBA team, but it's for Minnesota in particular. Nobody really liked the Gobert trade. Nobody liked the Gobert trade. That was a lot. The reason why I didn't like the trade even more, the picks are one thing, the amount of players is one thing, but Rudy Gobert is predicated on the perimeter guys doing their job. And in Utah, I think that was why he was made the scapegoat. I speculated, and Donovan Mitchell later confirmed on the JJ Redick podcast, that the defensive scheme was like, all right, guard up as much as you can, but if, just lead them right to Rudy because Rudy will get you. And he can't, he's a good perimeter defender as much crap as he gets. I think that, there's been times where he has been embarrassed. He doesn't look the most coordinated on the perimeter, but has the length, has a bit of makeup speed, if you drive right past him, and even then he still has the length to do so, to bother you, to block you. It's very simple. what Rudy Gobert does as a defender. He's one of the best defenders, period. I feel, I don't think I'm a Rudy Gobert stan, but everybody on our radio show really hates him, and I don't, I don't really agree with a lot of the stuff about Rudy Gobert. As a general consensus in the NBA community, but this team is surrounded with guys like Taurean Prince as a fine defender, Kyle Anderson as a fine defender. Same with Anthony Edwards. McDaniels is a bit of an unknown to me. I would have been much more comfortable putting him in the deal than Vanderbilt. And then, is Jalen Noel and Jordan McLaughlin gonna be great perimeter defenders? I'm not expecting that, certainly. Same with a guy like Bryn Forbes and Austin Rivers and Naz Reid. Karl Towns can't defend the perimeter, and that's been an issue through 4 games. If we want to talk about the negatives of having a too big backcourt. But they gave up both of their best perimeter defenders in order to go grab Rudy Gobert. And that's, Patrick Beverley was a necessary salary addition. Who else did they add? Vanderbilt. I would have much rather have been comfortable with a guy in McDaniels being included in the deal. And that's not to say that McDaniels is not going to pan out to anything or amount to any success in the NBA. I just thought that there was much more immediate success with Vanderbilt being in there than I did with than what I saw with McDaniels last season. I think that's just a little bit too much of a gamble on a guy that hasn't really played a whole lot and had Vanderbilt take over most of his minutes on the bench. But there's also just not a lot of defense to supplement everything that Rudy Gobert does bring to that Minnesota team. They have guys that I think are interesting come, the deadline, particularly with D'Lo, who is a fine offensive player, a fine point guard, just not worth the contract that they are paying him. And I think that he wants an extension, and I don't think Minnesota's willing to give him that extension, given that it's going to be a pretty hefty extension. They're a team to keep an eye on. They're definitely intimidating with the size that they have. I mean, having 2 7-footers as in your front court is going to be intimidating to teams, to players, to opposing game plans. But I just think that it's going to be very hard to win playoff games with this type of perimeter defense that's expected to be around Rudy Gobert. All right, I think we're going to touch on the Jazz a little bit. I'm just going to name off a couple of teams that I'm not necessarily believers in, I guess I'll say. We had this segment last show. I think it was just called like overrated, underrated for NBA teams, and we kind of just glossed over it. We were running short on time. So again, I don't want to touch on the Lakers. They're perfectly rated as being one of the worst teams in the league right now. Terrible shooting, terribly constructed roster, too much negative stuff going on. And the unfortunate part is, like, I liked Darvin Ham. It's just that he was going to be set up for failure, no matter what was going to happen. Then, I already touched on the Mavs. I consider them overrated, but that's the case to follow throughout the season. And the Utah Jazz, they're failing the tank right now. They got like a solid foundation of like fine players. There's not a traditional first option for this team. I thought it was going to be Colin Sexton, except now he's on the bench getting 18 minutes a game on a $72 million contract. Mike Conley has looked good to start off the season. Jordan Clarkson has looked great to start off the season. Lauri Markkanen is in that same boat. They have a lot of interesting young guys with like Ochai Agbaji, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt. That Vanderbilt piece is I love that piece. I hope that the Suns are somehow able to acquire him. But I just think that it's just a matter of like they caught these teams like Denver, who's in the middle of trying to adjust with Michael Porter Jr. being back in the lineup, Jamal Murray being back in the lineup in that first game. I think that was just a bad matchup for Denver, who was trying to get reacclimated to everything. They beat the Pelicans, which was a very surprising turn of events. They did a very good job executing down the stretch to close out that game. They beat Houston once. They lost to Houston once. I would expect that to remain the same whenever they do face up against each other later on in the season. It's a fine roster, but overall, I think that they're going to continue to try to be in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. There's no way around it. I mean, they traded their two best players and their best perimeter defender. I don't expect them to try to win games and try to make the play-in with this roster. As much as I like the players that are with Utah, I think that they're being just a tad bit overrated. Because everybody knows what they're trying to do, but I think that this start has kind of clouded that, and they've been talked about as a legit play-in team, and I don't see that personally. They might win a couple extra games than what I have them projected, but it's a tad bit overrated in my eyes. The New York Knicks, I believe they won again tonight. I know that they started 3-1 by the time we were recording. I believe that they lost, actually. Yeah, they lost to Milwaukee. They fall to 3-2. I think that Jalen Brunson he's been interesting for me to follow. I think that he's a bit overpaid. I think that was a lot of money. What was it? 4 years, $110 million. After I think he played very well in the playoffs. He played himself into a playoff rotation for the first time in his career. And I thought that was a bit small of a sample size to warrant that big of a contract. Particularly with this high-level play that he did produce in 2 rounds of playoff basketball last year. But he's been very good to start off the season. This game, it was particularly difficult. Javon Carter is a pretty good defender than what he gets credit for. Drew Holiday is also going to be pestering him, so it's no fun playing against Drew Holiday by any means. But Brunson, I guess I may as well be, a little bit sneak peeky about it, but I think that Brunson is a legitimate candidate for most improved player. I think in a situation where he's going to be playing his natural position in New York, being a point guard, being a distributor, I think that's going to do wonders for his development, and I think that if his shot creation and his shot making gets better, I think we could legitimately talk about him as a potential top 10 point guard, and at least enough to warrant, such a big contract. But Julius Randle being there and, not getting off to a good start again after having such a down year last year. Evan Fournier he's done a couple of things, but I don't think that they want to keep him. I don't think they want to keep D Rose. They got a lot of young guys that a lot of people like. I particularly really like Cam Reddish. I think he should be playing way more than he is. They also have guys like Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley. If you want to put in Deuce McBride, Quentin Grimes, Jericho Sims, they got a bunch of interesting young guys to go along with Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. They got a pretty fine roster the way that it's built right now, but at the end of the day, I expect them to be more so barely outside of the play-in. I just think that I still can't really trust Jalen Brunson to match whatever production he was having in the playoffs last year throughout the course of an entire season, at least in his first season. I think that there's going to be some ups and downs, and I think that Thibodeau is going to struggle with rotations, and I think that there's going to be guys that kind of just fall out of favor and will make the team go towards the bottom. Tad bit overrated for their start, but I think I'm starting to see the vision with a Brunson Barrett duo, if you want to call it that. What other teams do we have on here? We had Portland. I say overrated as well. Damian Lillard is certainly not overrated. He's been one of the best point guards in the league for a number of years now, and he's certainly improved to be that, at least still to be that through the first couple of games. Anthony Simons has looked really good. He's been scorching hot from downtown. Yusuf Nurkic has been very good on the boards. He's been very good from the free throw line, which is something that he has struggled with for a number of years. Jeremy Grant and Josh Hart look like the glorified role players that they've been made out to be. I don't believe in this bench. Gary Payton, I think, is also a little bit more matchup dependent than these other teams. I think matchup dependent when it comes to the offensive end. I think that you could plug in his defense, and he's going to make it tough on a number of guards. He's a streaky offensive player, and you have to set him up with basket cuts. You got to set him up with lobs, drives to the basket. That's how you're going to have to utilize his offensive game. And I don't think that there is anyone that provides good enough playmaking to help out Gary Payton in that department with basket cuts and lobs. I don't see anybody aside from Lillard, and he's not a playmaker. He's not a playmaking point guard first. I think it's going to be difficult to utilize Payton, and people forget that he's 30. How much is he going to really improve from beyond the arc? Who knows? But I'm not entirely sure about that, especially since he's been hurt to start off the season. I like Shaedon Sharpe. I think he was my number 8 rated player in the draft, maybe even number 7. I'm not entirely sure. I think that he's very raw. I think that he has good shot making ability, shot creation ability. It's just a matter of consistency with him, and he hasn't popped off at this moment in time like how a guy like Paolo Banchero has to start off the season. And that's no knock on him, but I just don't think that's the impact that some of these other guys are having. I don't think that he'll have that same impact for a team like Portland. I think that they're still going to be good. I have them as a play-in team still, just because I don't believe in this bench being able to hold up everything that Portland is doing well. But I'll just say this, don't count them out. They're still a very good team. They're still a very dangerous team with Lillard on the floor, and the pairing between him and Simons through the first couple of games before Lillard got hurt, it's been much more encouraging than the starts with Lillard and McCollum's first year being a legit duo. And we talked about the Sixers. We talked about the Mavs. I guess I also wanted to touch on Ben Mathurin real quick, who has been one of my favorite players to watch so far. I'm one of the sickos that watches, San Antonio versus Indiana on a Wednesday night. But I watch a bit more of Pacers basketball. For one, I really like watching Halliburton play. And I really like Ben Mathurin. I compared him to Jaylen Brown coming out of the draft, having good defensive capabilities, being able to play on and off the ball on the offensive end, having the potential to be a 1B option, like how Jaylen Brown is with the Boston Celtics right now. And he was my sixth rated prospect, but I think that the fit with the Indiana Pacers was what had me like really infatuated in the coming days before the draft. Because for one, he openly said that he wants to play in Indiana, and you never hear anybody ever saying, out of all the places that I want to be in the NBA, I want to be in Indiana. Never been done. Outside of this offseason where we see that, and then DeAndre Ayton signed the max offer sheet. But, that's a big boost in ego for the rest of this team, knowing that there's a guy that really wants to help out and build something in Indiana. And then I just thought about Tyrese Halliburton and how he's going to be setting up Ben Mathurin on the offensive end, and how lethal that defensive duo will be once Ben Mathurin gets up to speed with NBA offenses. And I think that he has legitimate, Donovan. Do I want to go that far? I won't go that far yet, but I think that his ceiling is a bit higher than a Jaylen Brown being with this Indiana Pacers squad. I think that he has great ability to play on the catch and shoot with a one dribble pull up. I see him being a very good creator, and he has been so far to start off the season. He's been playing off the bench. He's had multiple games of 20 plus points per game. Now there's going to be some rough nights as expected for a number of rookies. I think he had a rough shooting night tonight versus the Wizards, and everybody else on that team was playing a lot better, with Halliburton. Miles Turner had a big game. Jalen Smith had a pretty good game. I'm going to just say, keep your eye out on Ben Mathurin. I think that he's going to be really special in Indiana. All right. What else do we want to go with to wrap up this episode? This has been a good 50 minutes so far. I do want to end on one more thing. And as I'm kind of looking through the standings and everything, I've made my New Orleans hype train very apparent, and I'm going to push that agenda in the next episode. San Antonio has gotten off to 4-2 start. OKC beat the Clippers twice. The Kings and the Lakers are winless to start off the season. I ranted about the Brooklyn Nets on the last show. I think I want to talk about, for the last couple of minutes, and it's weird that I want to talk about the Sacramento Kings for the first couple of minutes, but I think that they're going to be in an interesting situation come January. They are one of two winless teams, along with the Los Angeles Lakers, and they have. I remember after the the first two waves in NBA free agency, I openly tell guys like Will, guys like Luka, that I'm able to see the vision. We all made fun of the Jaden Ivey pass up for Keegan Murray. And it wasn't a matter of Keegan Murray being a bad player, a bad prospect at that time. As a matter of fact, Keegan Murray was my favorite prospect coming out of this year's draft. Just his ability to know where he dominates and, not moving away from it. And I think that fit was logical with Keegan Murray, but I think that everybody can be in agreement that Jaden Ivey was the best prospect available and has something really good in the tank. And I think that best player available would have been the better option for him. Then they build out the roster with Kevin Herter, trading Harkless and Justin Holiday and a pick. They pick up Malik Monk. Davion Mitchell is on the bench. Trey Lyles is a very good piece. Same with Chimezi Metu. I'm going to go with Metu. And I'm along with Rashawn Holmes still. And I'm like, okay, like I'm really buying into everything that's going on. Keegan Murray he's been very good to start off the season. Shooting the three ball at a high clip, averaging 17 and 7 so far to start off the year. Pretty much doing everything that he was expected to do when he was coming out of Iowa State. I'm gonna go with Iowa. I think he came out of Iowa, but he's been really good to start off the season. Same could be said with a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who has really done a very good job shooting the ball this year. I think I don't know the exact clip, and I may as well look that up as well. It's been a long night. Don't mind that I'm having to look up all of this stuff. But he's gotten off to a very good 3-point start. He's been very good defensively. He's been very good on the ball, which is something that, he's always been known as, but he, as he does go along, with Davion Mitchell and Halliburton at this time last year, knowing that his team is losing a ton, he was going to tail off a little bit from that standpoint, knowing that, he kind of would want to preserve his energy on the offensive end. And last year, he wasn't that great of an offensive player. But to start off the season, he's been averaging 31 points per game. He's averaging about 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 59% from the field. And then he's averaging, he's 42% from threes, 77% from the free throw line, which is a better clip. All of those are better clips than anything that he's ever shown in the past. And he looks very good to start off the season. Sabonis hasn't really looked that great. He's a very fine offensive player. You see the dynamic that he brings as a facilitator, as a high post threat. Defensively, he's just god-awful. Malik Monk is god-awful on defense. How reliable will Davion Mitchell be as a 6-foot combo guard defensively? Who knows? Harrison Barnes has looked pretty good to start off the year. It's just, not only are they on one of the toughest schedules so far, I'm just not entirely sure that this team at this point in time has done enough to warrant legit play-in consideration. Unfortunately, to begin this season, I have them in the play-in, and I think that, I'll justify everything when I'm back here tomorrow. But I think that there's a very good shot that they're also near the bottom of everything and that they just decide to blow it up again. And, I wouldn't be pissed at them if they did that at all. I mean, they messed up. I think we all can agree that trading away Halliburton for Sabonis was the wrong move. I think we can also agree that Jaden Ivey should have been the selection, and they should have tried to go get a piece for De'Aaron Fox last season. I think that there's still a lot of potential for Sacramento to be a high-end play-in team. Just to start off the season as rough as they have, aside from De'Aaron and Keegan Murray, what else do they really have going for them from the other guys that are coming in? It's been very slow to start off the season. And just, I would say, if this record keeps up, keep your eye out on Harrison Barnes. I would also say keep your eye out on De'Aaron Fox. As much as that would suck, I think that they would consider getting rid of Fox if they knew that they had a strong opportunity to land a Wembanyama, a Scoot Henderson, one of the Thompson brothers. Just, I think that's a team worth keeping an eye on, more so than the Lakers. I think they're more talented than the Lakers at this point, but it's going to be difficult from here on out for the Sacramento Queens. That's what I'll call them for the time being. But other than that, I think this will just about wrap it up. That was a little bit rough. I mean, it's 3 a.m. right now. I chose to do it in like a much more quiet environment with everybody being asleep and whatnot, knowing that I was going to be awake at this time. I hope that the video podcast does end up working out, and that I'm able to do more of this and upload on the Three-Peat Sports YouTube channel later on, upload some clips maybe. I'm going to try to get the predictions video out by tomorrow. I eventually want to talk about football again, which is something that I haven't done, I would say in like over a calendar year since the last time I talked about football on the podcast. And I think I did it with Keith Archer, and I'd like to do that again. I would like to talk about football with him again. I'd like to pick his brain. His Giants are doing very well. I got a lot of negative stuff to say about the Cardinals when and if they lose to the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming week. Again, tune into the radio show. I think that's where you're going to get a bulk of my basketball thoughts. I'm not entirely sure how much I'm going to be recording on here. It's going to be a difficult next couple of weeks with, you got to prepare for finals. You got to write some stories. I'm going to do my best. It's been tough right now, but we're going to try to get this shit rolling. And with that, that'll be the end of this episode. And I thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's been a long time, and we're going to get shit rolling. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Three-Peat Sports. Follow the TikTok at Three-Peat Sports. Go follow my Twitter at Ian B. Monhay, and tune in to next week's episode of the Triple Double on blazeradioonline.com. And that'll do it, and we are out.